Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 79. Tonight we have an article from the New York Post, and it has to do with Mark Epstein, Jeff Epstein's brother, and I guess he's worried that his life is in danger as well. So I think that's a pretty interesting piece of news that we should add to our Daily Drop catalog here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But before I do that, if you would like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. All right, so pretty interesting that Jeffrey Epstein's brother thinks his life is in danger. We heard this earlier. He said that, and now it's coming out again in this article from the New York Post today that he really feels like his life might be in danger from the same people that might have killed his brother. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see what he has to say about this, see if his tune has changed at all, considering that we've heard this from him previously, but it was a blurb, and now they have a whole Post article about it. So we're definitely going to read this article and see what's what. Why don't we just go ahead and jump right in, folks? The article is from the New York Post. The headline, Jeffrey Epstein's brother fears his life may also be in danger. Authored by Jackie Sallow. Jeffrey Epstein's brother fears that his life may also be in danger if the convicted pedophile was the victim of homicide, according to a private pathologist hired to look into the mysterious death. Okay, so this is about Michael Baden. So Michael Baden is, the pathologist who has been involved in a lot of these big name cases, right? He's been involved in a bunch of this stuff. So it was good enough for him to be involved in all of that stuff, and it was good enough for the media to trot him out. And look what Dr. Baden said, and he had that show on HBO. But now all of a sudden, he doesn't have any credibility to some people in the media. He's not credible. He's a quack. He's just looking for attention. Well, that might be the case. He might be looking for attention. He might be looking to increase his profile. I can't blame him for that. The question is, what about his work? Is his work good? If his work is good, then I don't really care if you like him as a person. Dr. Michael Baden said that the disgraced financier's younger brother, Mark Epstein, disgraced financier, pedophile, Mark Epstein has concerns about his own safety after his brother's hanging death. Mark, the brother, his concern is that he wants to know if it's suicide or if it's homicide, because if it's homicide, then his life may also be in danger, Baden told radio host John Castamadis Sunday on AM's 970, the Cats Roundtable. This is interesting stuff, right? This is very interesting stuff. Now, he's on a radio show, Dr. Baden's on a radio show, and I guess they get around to talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and Mark Epstein comes up, and the case, I'm guessing, comes up. And he brings up the little blurb that Mark, the brother, is nervous that, if this wasn't suicide, is he next? Do people think that he might know something? Do they think he might have some evidence or some information? Who knows? We're dealing with incredibly evil people, right? These are evil actors, bro. These are bad guys. These are bad women. These are really bad people we're talking about. The people that were running this operation are some of the worst people ever. And it spans continents. They were on multiple continents running this operation, from South Africa to Israel to Yugoslavia to you name it. You name it, these scumbags had their hands in deep. So if you're a family member and you think that your life might be in danger as well, considering you bring in this famed pathologist, Dr. Baden, and he doesn't really agree with what the medical examiner comes out and reports, well, what are you going to think, right? It might be some confirmation bias, right? He might think, well, I want to think that Jeffrey didn't kill himself. I want to think that Jeffrey was killed. Who knows? I'm not in Mark Epstein's head, and I wouldn't want to be. But my point is this. The people that Jeffrey Epstein were involved with are very capable of not only killing Jeffrey Epstein, but certainly capable of killing Mark as well, if that's what they wanted to do, right? I'm not saying I have evidence of that or that's what's going to occur, but it's something that you have to think about if you're this guy. These are incredibly dangerous people. These are very, very, very powerful people. New York City Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Barbara Sampson ruled the death a suicide after Jeffrey Epstein was found hanged at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in August. First suicide in how long? Jeffrey Epstein after the first case, he had the whole wing and all the preferential treatment. He thought he was getting off on this case with a technicality. The night before, his lawyer said he was in good spirits. Nobody reported that he was suicidal except for this first supposed attempt on his life. So, excuse me if I'm a bit skeptical of the narrative. I think the narrative is the conspiracy theory at this point, folks. We've moved on from that. We've graduated on this podcast. There's no conspiracy theory around these parts. We've graduated to the cover-up phase. All right? This is an absolute full-blown cover-up. Virginia Roberts has said it. Numerous people have said it. Whitney Webb believes it's a cover-up. And you know what? Even Amy Robach, if you read the transcript, said she doesn't believe that Epstein killed himself. So take your conspiracy theory wacko, calling people wackos and this, that, the other thing, and talking down about them in your silly articles and shove it. Because this is anyone who is thinking logically, anyone who looks at the whole entire body of evidence as opposed to just what confirms their biases, there's really no other way to look at this, right? You have to look at this and say, there are so many coincidences leading up to this man's death. So many coincidences. And if you're his family member, especially, even with Baden involved, of course you're going to question if he killed himself or not. If Baden came to that determination, well, why the hell wouldn't you think that Baden knows what he's talking about? I'm sure he paid him a pretty penny for that. But Mark Epstein hired Baden, who served as the New York City's chief medical examiner in the late 1970s, to oversee the autopsy, and Baden has insisted that 3 bone fractures in Jeffrey Epstein's neck points towards homicide rather than suicide. The private pathologist said that Mark believes that it's possible that others wanted his brother dead because he knew too much. How is that not a logical statement? How is that not a logical statement? We've seen it time and time again with people involved in these large criminal conspiracies. When somebody becomes dead weight, that's it. They're clipped. They're done. They get rid of them. They're not carrying around people that are liabilities. Not when you're running around in these power circles. Not when you have the ability and the power at your fingertips to end people the way they do. You really think they were going to let Epstein sing? You think Epstein was going to go the route of Joe Valachi? He wasn't singing. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't. There was never going to be a chance where that man was going to name names in a courtroom. He'd have some kind of weird heart. Something would have happened to him. A van ride from the prison as he's going to jail. It would have been something. And then they would have force-fed it down your throat. They would have force-fed their narrative down your throat. And if you don't believe it, well, you're the crazy one. You're the conspiracy theorist. BS. BS. Because his brother knew too much, and whoever killed Jeffrey might then think Mark knows too much, even though his life was entirely different than his brother's. See, that's not completely true. They had that building in Manhattan, the 66 East Manhattan, that they owned together. And out of that building, Jeffrey Epstein was operating the young models through the MC2 modeling agency. So he had all those apartments there where all these girls were logged in there 5, 6, 7 deep, sleeping on the floor. He had the rooms, the apartments where his pilots and staff, et cetera, all lived, and it was in Mark Epstein's name. So they didn't have completely different lives. Let's be honest here. Let's try and separate the BS from the real. Baden told the radio host, "The brother who hired me to be present at the autopsy is concerned as to whether or not his life is in danger from this. The brother has requested information from New York authorities about the hanging death, according to the pathologist. It's 5 months now. And why the dead body has been removed from the cell, destroying ability to do any forensic investigation, hasn't been explained, so the family is waiting for more information," Baden said. And so are we. Jeffrey Epstein might have been one of the most heinous, disgusting monsters in the whole entire world, but his family deserves to know the what's what, especially when the medical examiner has come out and said that they have already given all the information over. That's what we've covered previously here. So somebody's not telling the truth. Somebody's lying once again. The federal government's playing games, all right? And there's nobody we can trust in the Department of Justice. I don't trust Bill Barr, a Bush holdover. There's no way. I don't trust none of these people. I don't trust Barr. I don't trust any of his lackeys. I don't trust anybody in the Justice Department at this point. None of the leadership. And the case agents, well, they can only do so much, right? They can only do so much. If they're going after a big fry, they got to pass that up the chain. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. We've seen that with the Trump case. We see who ran the Operation Hurricane. We've seen who ran that. It was all the top people and all the top organizations. And the same thing definitely occurs in something like this. So I'm not really going to blame the rank and file. You really can't. They can only do so much. Their hands are tied. They do the preliminary investigations. They bring all the evidence forward. And then the head honchos, their bosses tell them, no, we're not doing that. They never get an explanation why all their hard work goes by the wayside, and the honchos probably getting their pockets lined or however it works, trading political favor for another favor. Who the hell knows? But what we do know is that justice is rarely served to people like Jeffrey Epstein. And in the year 2020, that is all going to change. This is the year the predator becomes the prey. If you would like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. And if you would like to support the podcast, you can use the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow morning, and we will do it all over again. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend.